Oops, here we go. Now I am actually unmuted. I have sent a link to my moderator so she can join me. Let me check. This is the first time I'm using this software, so please. There we go. There's a lot to keep track of when you're using new software, and especially when the new software requires you to feed to 3 different places at the same time. So I had to send a link to my moderator so she can post links for us. I had to make sure all of the stream keys were correct. It has been a hot mess. But I think we have it now. So if you can hear me, I would love to know where you're joining from. Let's do that first. That'll also give me time to make sure that all of my settings are good and that you can, in fact, hear me before I start completely going off on tangents and you can't hear a thing. So if you can hear me, let me know where you're joining from. It can be a city, a state, a country, a room in your home. Any of those would work fine. But this is the Reaching Sewalong. If you are on Instagram, I highly recommend you actually heading over to YouTube. And I did post that link. YouTube will be the better place for you to view, just because Instagram has this ridiculous format where you can only go, the portrait mode. Whereas I will be showing some things on YouTube and Facebook, hopefully, if everything's working correctly, that will show the whole landscape screen. We're going to talk about how to choose your fabrics, and I have some visual guides that will just plain work better in a landscape mode. So if you're on Instagram, I do recommend going to Facebook or YouTube to watch it. Really, YouTube is probably your best bet. And I did post that link, or you can just go to Cranky Kangaroo on YouTube and find me there. I'm Jamie Horn on Facebook. So this is the Reaching Sewalong, and we are going to be making this ridiculously amazing quilt. It's from Helen Creasy of And So I. And if you've been around long enough, she is the same one that did this horse right here. And the horse is available in 2 different sizes, and it's available as a unicorn or a horse, and I did one of each. And I've recently moved in from the garage. I'm in my den. I'm in a house. And so I'm just glad to be in temperature controlled environment finally. So the unicorn quilt did not come with me yet. She's still waiting to be hung up, but I have the horse for now. So Helen has created her next pattern. It's this mermaid. It's called Reaching. It won Viewer's Choice in one of the shows in Europe, and she decided to put it out as a pattern. So it's actually available in 2 sizes like the horse was. So you can make the 80 by 80, or you can make the 50 by 50. Bubba Bean says not finding this video on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search for Cranky Kangaroo, you will find probably a live tab, maybe. Let's see if I can find an easier way. Oh, you did find it. Okay, good. And there is a little bit of a delay between what I'm saying and when you hear it. So if there's a little bit of a disconnect, I do eventually see your comments. Or I think I see your comment and then I comment on it, and then you will eventually see that I commented on it. So I'm glad you found it. Okay, so we're going to get started. We're going to talk about both aspects. Either you have just the pattern, you did the digital download, or you bought the kit from Legit Kits. So if you haven't already, you can still join the sew along. We do not start actually sewing on these things until like May 1st. I wanted to allow time to, get your fabrics, get organized, get starched, get everything ready to go, and then we start sewing. I didn't want it to be like, okay, let's start sewing today, and some people feel left out. So if you still want to join, you absolutely can. And you can get, like I said, either just the digital download. So if you go to crankykangaroo.com/reaching, you can get just the digital download from Helen on her Etsy shop, or you can get the full kit from Legit Kits. The idea with the full kit is that the work is done for you. You do not have to think about it. You don't have to pull from your stash. You don't have to order. You don't have to worry about minimums. The kit is done. It's ready. And it's in these exact colors, which is amazing. And it's an amazing quilt. And in person, it's even more striking. But if you want to use your own fabric, if you want to pull from your stash or do it in a different colorway, you can do it in a completely different colorway if you want to. I'm going to move this over just a little bit real quick for Instagram to get a better view of her. There she is. And then I'll move it back. But she is pretty amazing. And you can do it in either size. And so the pattern comes with instructions for your fabric allotment for either size. So you can pull from your stash. The fabric that I would recommend is either solids or like batiks, because there's no right or wrong side. So especially if you're new to foundation paper piecing, you can tackle this quilt. But I don't recommend adding an extra difficulty level in for yourself. So if you're new to foundation paper piecing, use something like solids or batiks that have no right or wrong side. And that'll really just eliminate an issue from the very beginning. So batiks are great. Kona Kaufman is what Legit Kits uses, and those have enough shades that really make it doable. There's a lot of shades to choose from, and so you can have some really nice variety there. But whatever you're choosing, let's talk about how to choose your fabrics in the correct gradient. The pattern comes with a list of colors you'll need and how many colors you'll need. So the water, we need 12 shades of water. And the idea here is, as long as you have 12 shades of any color, it does not have, I mean, you could have green water, you could have purple water, really does not matter where you get your colors. I mean, you could have whatever color water you want as long as it's in that 12 shade gradient. So you start light and work to dark and get 12 colors total. So let's take a look at an example. So when you're choosing your fabrics, here we go. Here is a stack of fabrics. These are batiks that I was using, I think, for the last Vortex quilt, and I laid them all out. And again, if you're on Instagram, you might not see the full width, so I do recommend viewing this on YouTube, but I'll kind of let this span so you can see it. But this is just a stack of batiks, light to dark, and they look pretty good. They look okay, but if you're kind of questioning, am I really going to get the effect I want with this stack? Is this really the true gradient from light to dark? What you can do is turn it to black and white, and that will really make any odd ones stand out. So for instance, we have the same stack, and these look pretty good over here. And again, I'm just moving this for Instagram because Instagram's only seeing the middle third of the screen, so I'm moving it so they can see it. But as we scan to the lighter shades, we kind of see where one might be a problem. This one right here, third from the left. So 1, 2, 3. This one right here, third from the left, kind of stands out to me in black and white. And that's really the idea, is that you can erase all of the hues and colors and really see the tone. I think that's the right version. It's, one of them is color and one of them is shading and whatever. Either way, you can really see the shading and see that this one in the middle, I think it might end up being an issue. So turn your photo black and white and you can see if one of them stands out more than it's supposed to. It probably should not go there in your gradient. I'll give you another good example. So these are our batiks, and see, it's this orange and blue one that I think was promising there, but in the end, he just stood out too much. So I'll give you another example. This is, and again, I'll move this for Instagram. This is actually for one of my dog quilts that I did, not the one hanging right there. So this is another stack of solids and gradients, and it looks pretty good here. There's only 4 of them, and then I had the background color and I think his nose or mouth colors next to it, but it looks pretty good here. So when you turn it to black and white, and let me get rid of the batiks. There we go. When you turn it to black and white, that actually looks really good. There's nothing standing out. There's nothing out of place. There's nothing that I think, he does not look right there. So lay your colors out that you've chosen and turn it to black and white and see if something sticks out at you. Also, if you are using printed fabrics and you're kind of running out of gradients, if maybe I need one more color, flip your fabrics over and see if the back of the fabric will offer maybe a lighter shade that you can use. Sometimes that's a nice way to get an extra color in there that if you're just struggling to find another color. So I also have an in-depth video on YouTube on how to choose the video that I pulled the batiks pictures from. The full video is on YouTube. It's the Vortex digital download video. And I can even put that in the comments because I don't think I prepared it ahead of time to send a link to anyone, but I can put the link to that in the comments. But that kind of goes into a little bit more depth, but the idea is the same. As long as you have the same number of colors that are called for. So 11, 12 waters and 8 skins. So let's talk about the skins real quick, because the kit that comes from Legit Kits, the water and the skin blend nicely. That's kind of the idea. She's part of the water. She blends in. It's really her hair and tail that stand out. But if you did want to, you can make this mermaid in any color. You can have her, with a regular skin tone. You can have her with purple hair and a green tail. It's your quilt, whatever you want to do with it. So as long as you have the same number of colors, gradient. So the skin, you need 8 shades. So as long as you have 8 shades of skin tone, or she could be green, you could make her whatever color you want. You just have to match the number of colors. So light to dark, 8 shades of skin, and that's just what you will fill in for your skin. Now, once you have your colors picked out, you will use this same sheet that's included in the pattern, and you will attach your colors to it. So even if you're using the kit, because you might think, oh, well, my colors are chosen for me. Great, I don't have to do anything. If you're using the kit, you still need to put your colors on here, and I'll tell you why. Because as you're sewing, this is such a nice reference. These colors are close together, and that's on purpose. You want a really nice gradual gradient. You don't need a lot of contrast, with the next door neighbors. But sometimes as you're sewing, it's nice to look and make sure, did I cut that right color? And there were a couple times I caught myself. I said, wait, did I cut the right color? Is that truly W7? And then I'd look on here. Oh, I did make a mistake, and I could catch myself. So you do want to put your fabrics on here to keep your reference. Just really keep yourself in line and in check and have a quick reference to pull from. But once you have your fabrics chosen, put them on here. Next session, we're going to talk about how to actually use the labels on your fabric themselves. But for now, we're just picking our fabrics. We're getting our kits in the mail. And then once you have your fabrics picked out and your kit in the mail, let's talk about starching. Actually, let's first talk about printing your pattern. If you are doing the digital download, you will need to have your pattern printed. This is not a typical pattern where you can just print it on your printer on letter size or A4 paper. This needs to be printed in large format. And really the reason is there's large pieces on this pattern. There's large pieces of the quilt that almost run edge to edge. And if you printed that on regular paper, you'd have to tape the paper together and you would be taping for days. And the amount of paper you're going to use just printing off and then, pasting together, it's just a lot of work, and it's just not necessary when you can get it printed all on one big nice sheet, and then your pattern pieces are one piece. There is one pattern piece in this pattern that does need to be taped, just because that one was the exception. It doesn't even fit on the large format paper. Other than that, there is no pasting together here. You don't have to cut them out and then tape the pattern pieces together. That's the point of putting it on the large format paper, is they're all one piece. And so it's such a nice time save, and it's a nice, just eliminate that step right there and get them printed on the large format. If you're in the US, we like to use PDF plotting. They're a good company. They have really good customer service. When I did the unicorn quilt Sewalong, that's who I used, and they had amazing communication and talked to me. At that time, they actually gave me a coupon code for the winner of the unicorn Sewalong. I reached out to them, and I'm waiting to see if they'll give us a coupon code for someone in this Sewalong. So I'm waiting to hear back, but they are an excellent company. It's a great price. It's like $20 to have this thing printed and mailed to you. So again, the time you're going to spend, the paper, the ink, everything you're going to spend just trying to get this printed is going to be worth just having it printed by a shop. It's such a time saver. So Deb is posting links. So if you want to go straight to PDF plotting, the link is posted. There's also a page on Helen's website, andsewI.com, that really goes into more depth about having it printed in large format. It's scary at first because it's such a strange thing. But once you have it done, it's such an amazing, just time-saving process, and I highly recommend it. So go to the link that Deb has posted, the And So I link, and you'll have more info on getting it printed large. But it really is worth the time and the money to have it printed on the large format paper. And you can choose between newsprint or regular thickness paper. And I will say, one, the newsprint is actually more expensive for some reason. The regular thickness paper is what we actually recommend for the large format pattern. So when you're doing a normal legit kit, we print it on newsprint because it's so nice to tear and it's just nice to work with. When you're doing these large format patterns, that newsprint weakens pretty quickly. You've got large pieces to deal with, and it just starts to fall apart sometimes sooner than you want it to. So I do actually recommend printing it on the regular thickness when you're printing it on a large format paper. The regular thickness, just the regular copy paper, white paper, is a little bit better when you're doing the large format patterns. So keep that in mind. And it's also cheaper just to do it on the regular paper. So that worked out. This pattern is different than a legit kit, and we will also get into a little bit more of that in the next session. So if you've done legit kits, this one works differently, but it has some real advantages to it. Legit kits has an amazing block format. It's great for everyone. It's easy to put together. That's a great way to do it. This one works differently, and it is really fast to go together because of that. So we're going to work through some of the more challenging areas. It's still very doable for a beginner, but there are some things to keep in mind, and we'll cover those over time and in our sessions. So we talked about choosing fabrics and what kind of fabric and how to choose your gradients. We talked about printing. If you're outside of the US, there are also links to go to for the printing outside of the US. So that's, Deb might put the link in the comments here, or you can also find that information on the And So I webpage for large format printing. So if you're inside or outside the US, you have options either way. If you're inside the US, you can do the kit or the printed pattern. If you're outside the US, I'm pretty sure they're shipping this pattern internationally, but it might be cost prohibitive to you. So you might choose to do the printed pattern, and then you can just choose your own fabrics. It's completely up to you, and then you can choose your size. If you do the printed pattern, that's the advantage of doing that, is you can choose your size of the quilt. We are going to do an 80 by 80 or a 50 by 50 inch, so you have your option. So I'm excited about that. I'm thinking I might need a mini mermaid quilt. Let's see. Okay, thank you for posting that, Deb. There we go. I'll add that. Okay, so let's talk about, actually, let's go ahead and talk about the legit kit version. If you do order the legit kit, or you will order the legit kit, maybe you haven't yet, but you're still on the fence, the legit kit does the work for you. So it will be in the fabrics and shades you see here, which is amazing. It's just the Kona solids have such a nice variety that you can really get this depth look with it. So, and the guesswork is done. You don't have to think about choosing your fabrics. You don't have to think about gradients. You don't have to think about any of that. So the fabrics come labeled, and they're generous amounts. So if you worry about cutting too much or cutting wrong, or even if your dog runs off with wanting your fabric pieces. It has happened before. Legit Kits has a fabric guarantee. So if something happens and you do run out of a piece of fabric, you email them and they will send you another piece. They want you to finish your quilts. We don't want you, fretting over, did I do it wrong? Will I have enough fabric? What happens if I mess up? Do not worry about that, because we're here for you and they have your back and it's going to be okay. And it does happen. People lose their fabric. My cats take off with fabric. People spill wine on them. It happens. It's life. We understand. We want you to finish your quilt. So don't be afraid to reach out to them. If you do run out of fabric, they'll send you more fabric. That's part of the guarantee. So the kit comes with everything you need to make the quilt top, and then you'll just need the batting and the backing to finish. So it comes in these colors, and Kona, like I said before, has no right or wrong side. So that just kind of takes out a difficulty level right in the beginning. So you can order your kit. Deb has posted the link, or you can just go to crankykangaroo.com/reaching and order it through there, or you can order your pattern through there. So now we get to talk about starching, which is one of my favorite topics. And I know I got questions about that before now. Will we talk about starching? Yes, we're going to talk about starching. I do want to go back real quick and make sure I didn't miss. Oh, Baba Bean did ask about printing the pattern. So that's what we just covered. And see, I didn't answer at the time because I knew there was that delay. And so I think I was already into printing the pattern when that comment came up. Anyways, so let's talk about starching. And if you have any questions up until this point, please post them. Do not be afraid and do not hesitate. Just post your questions, and I will cover them either in this session or in a future session. We've got several sessions planned where it's just kind of downtime. Like we are in between sewing, so that I wanted to allow lots of time for catch up and life. And I know how that happens. So even if I don't cover it now, maybe we'll cover it in a future session or in a special session, or you never know. So if you have questions, do not be afraid to ask. Okay. Deb has posted links to my Amazon store. Oh, I see. How did I? Oh, you know what? I'm learning things about my software as I go. I have my sound back now. Yes, I believe. Yeah. I think what happens is as I change scenes, I did not realize that the individual scenes, I can mute and unmute, but I did not realize those attached to individual scenes. And I think that's what's happening is as I'm designing and getting ready for this, I might mute or unmute at certain times. And I think it's attached to that scene. So, I think I was just chatting about starching. I used to starch with the spray cans. Meyer has, Faultless Niagara spray starch. And I do love that stuff. I love that stuff. But I was starching indoors. I'd have to iron it. I had no place to hang it, so I would just have to iron it afterwards. And it was a big process, especially as I got into more and more quilts. I mean, I spent so much time starching that I was wasting a lot of time. So now Marie says that's when it happened, is when the scene changed, that we lost audio. So I'm going to have to keep that in mind. Okay, Marie, you asked, where do I get the pattern? It is not a stupid question because you joined late, but you can go to crankykangaroo.com/reaching, and all of the links for getting your pattern are there. No such thing as a stupid question in quilting. If you've ever worked retail, you know there are stupid questions in retail, grocery stores, but not in quilting. So starching. So then someone told me about the weed sprayer. There is a weed sprayer where you put the water and the weed sprayer, the weed preventative in the canister, and you pump it and it gets pressurized. They said, put your starch in there. Get like this concentrate starch and put it in there. And that's been life-changing. So this is what I do now. I just go outside on a nice day, hang all my fabrics up at the same time, and spray the life out of them. I use the concentrate. So Deb has posted the Amazon shop where you can get all of my starch recommendations. And the weed sprayer is in there. Make sure it's a clean new one. Don't steal your husband's. Use a clean new one that's dedicated to starch for this. And then the concentrate starch is listed there as well. And it's a big bottle, and I mix it in the weed sprayer and just spray these down. I spray both sides. Well, I have them doubled over, and so I'll spray one side and I'll go to the other side and spray one side. But if it's just a single layer of fabric, you just have to spray it once. But you can double it over and save space on your clothesline. So like if you have a lot of fabric or you have a small clothesline, you can use double layers and just spray one side and then go around and spray the other side. You don't have to just do single layers, and they dry just fine. So I'll go out and spray. Actually, my dad sprays for me now, and that's been kind of nice too. That's been his task lately. So I'll go out and spray them all down, let them dry in the air. When I do it this way, I do not have to iron because they'll just dry pretty flat. Now, why do you want to starch? I know this is a hot topic in the quilting world. However, I have reels and videos and all kinds of instances where I have seen the fabric shrinking when I spray it. You could even spray it with just water. It doesn't even have to be starch. But whatever can get that initial, shrink out of that fabric. It is slight. It is not life-changing. It is not earth-shattering. It will not ruin your quilt if you do not starch. So if you don't want to, if you don't have the space to, if you just plain don't want to do it, if you just plain are against starching, you don't have to. I do it your way. That is completely fine. I do recommend it because I do see that little bit of shrinking. And then outside of that, a starched fabric just plain behaves better. It's easier to cut. It's easier to sew, and you'll get less rippling as you sew as well. So as that fabric goes under the feed dog just can't grab it and ripple it if it's nicely starched and flat and stiff. So that's why I recommend starching. But if you don't want to, that is okay. You do not have to. But I do recommend you doing it just once and see how you like it and how it feels. And if you hate it, you don't ever have to do it again. Do it once and see if it makes a difference for you. So that's how I starch, and I love going out on a nice day and doing it and just getting it all done. You can leave your stickers on if you ordered the legit kit and you have those stickers that come on it. You can leave those stickers on. I starch right over those stickers. It doesn't hurt anything. They don't come off. They don't stick worse. They're fine. They don't bleed. The stickers, the labels can stay on the fabric as you are starching. And really any starch, like you could even just use cornstarch, like actual cornstarch diluted in water, use that. Any starch, it doesn't matter. You can use anything. And again, if you have questions at any point, do not hesitate to post them. So that is actually everything I'm going to cover today. We have a full schedule on crankykangaroo.com. I'm going to pull it up real quick so we can see what we're going to talk about next time. So whether you order the quilt kit or you get the download pattern and print it yourself, we're going to work through both ways in this sew along. It really doesn't matter which one you chose. You're going to be able to work through the sew along. Even if you're not sewing this quilt, I invite you to sign up for this sew along because I think there will be helpful hints and you might learn something, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. So even if you're not planning on making this quilt, it's okay to join. Please join this sew along and you can watch along with us. So, okay, and I changed my scenes and then I looked real quick. I'm still unmuted, so I think we're good. I'm learning as we go. My husband made me try this new software, and it's going out to the 3 platforms at once, which is sure super convenient, whatever. But in the meantime, I have to learn a new platform. And man, oh man, do I hate learning new things. So you can go to crankykangaroo.com and get the links for ordering the kit or getting the digital download directly from Helen. In the future, we are going to talk about actually looking at the pattern. We're going to take a look at the codes on here and work through them so that there's no surprises, no nervousness. We're going to talk about what the codes on there mean and how to read them and interpret them. And let's see, we don't start sewing until May 1st. So if you don't have your pattern or your kit yet, there's still lots of time because I really wanted to allow lots of time for everyone to get ready and organized and settled and ready to go before we just start cutting and get into it. And then I don't want anybody to feel left out. So I wanted to allow lots of time for people to get ready to go and sew on May 1st. So on the next session, we're also going to talk about, like, do we want to cut all of our pattern out at first, or do we want to cut as we go? We'll talk about that. And then in this schedule, I think I had listed like how to label your fabrics, and you know what? We can talk about the supplies you need. Let's do that. But we'll talk about how to label your fabrics next time because let's get them starched. We'll do that first. We'll make sure we have our kits before we're talking about how to label and how to set that up. But I do want to talk about supplies. I am a very minimalist quilter. I came from a production sewing background, so I make one thing and I make it fast and many times over. So for me, I just want to find the quickest way to make it. And many times that does involve special tools, or it does involve, you know, really specialized things. However, with foundation paper piecing, I have found that for me, this is just for me, the fewer tools are actually the faster way. So for me and foundation paper piecing, I use scissors. I don't use a rotary cutter for the most part. This quilt is a little bit different in that because we have such large pieces, we will get into the rotary cutter. So if you have a rotary cutter and a mat and you're used to it, great. If you don't have one and you're just getting into quilting and you don't want to buy extra tools, you don't have to. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Let's just get you sewing. But as far as sewing machines and thread go, any sewing machine that can do a straight stitch, all we need to do this quilt is a straight stitch. We never break out into a zigzag or anything fancy or anything like that. It's a straight stitch and it's a short straight stitch. So we use like a 1.5, 1.8 in your stitch length. It's a short stitch to allow for that paper to come out easily in the end. So, and then as far as thread, I use a light neutral. The fiber content doesn't matter as much, and the weight doesn't matter as much unless you're having issues. If you're having issues like your thread showing through your seam or it breaking, you know, you might want to adjust your thread weight. A lot of quilters, a lot of foundation paper piecers use 50 weight. Sometimes I use 30 weight. It just depends on what I have on hand and what's closest. And if I'm not having issues, I don't worry about it. So a 50 weight, a 30 weight, light neutral. Sometimes a gray is even too dark. So like a light gray, a light tan, white, cream, something very light in color. Because if you start sewing with a dark thread and that thread shows through, there's nothing you can do. It's done. It's sewn. You cannot get rid of the shadow that will form with that thread. But if you're sewing with a light thread and it shows through on a dark section of the quilt, you can take care of that. You can color your threads. Let's just color it with Sharpies. It's color fast and call it a multimedia quilt because that will take care of the light thread showing through on the dark colors. But if you sew a dark thread on light colors and it shows through, there's no undoing that. So I just use the same color thread throughout the quilt. I do not worry about changing colors throughout because your thread really shouldn't be showing anyway. So if it is showing, we'll talk about, dealing with the symptoms later. But for now, a light neutral. You could even do like a light blue for this quilt just because we have so much blue, and that would be fine. But test it out, make sure it doesn't show on the front side of your pieces as you sew, and you're good to go. Other than that, what else? And again, if you have questions along the way, oh, I see a question. So Marie says, if I have only made the building blocks quilt, will this be too difficult for me? I am very new to this. Oh, that's a good question, and thank you for that. If you have only done the building blocks quilt, this one will be totally doable for you. It is done in a different format, so we don't have the block breakdown in this quilt like we do with a normal legit kit. So this quilt was kitted by Legit Kits, but the pattern was designed by And So I, Helen Creasy. So the pattern is done in a pretty traditional foundation paper piecing format in that we have large pieces to deal with. That can be a little finicky, but it also makes it go really quick. So if you've only done the building blocks, you'll be fine. We're going to walk you through every step of the way, and I'm not going to leave anybody hanging. And I think you'll really actually do well because it's a pretty easy quilt because we've got some large chunks that we'll deal with. And we're going to do the large chunks first. When we start sewing on May 1st, we're going to do the large ones first and get the fabric. We're going to pare down our fabric and use our larger pieces first to make sure we have enough fabric. And then those are just plain easier. So we're not even going to deal with the smaller pieces like in her hair and her tail until later on in the sew along. So we start easy, we start big. I think you'll be just fine. Yeah, that's an excellent question. Thank you for that. And then Poesha says, I love this sew along. I am wanting to do a legit kit in the future, so I will be joining and watching, but not actually sewing. Thank you. Yeah, that's perfect. And I think you'll gain a lot from this. And that's totally what I want. I want people involved, even if they're not making the quilt. Come watch and come ask questions and come learn and come gain your confidence. And I think at the very end of this, I think you'll be ready for anything. So thank you, Marie, for that. You're very sweet. So yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. And let me see. I need to double check I'm not missing something else. Where did Marie? There she is. Oh, I see. I'm still clicking the wrong buttons. I have to get used to this software. But so far, don't tell my husband I said this, but I do kind of like this software. But nobody heard me say that. I will edit out that portion of this video because nobody can tell him that he was right. That is not. Oh, I think he's watching. Anyways, he's always finding new things for me to do, and I hate learning so much. I just want to do it. I just want to sew, don't make me learn something new. I just want to sew. But no, I do like that all of the comments from the 3 platforms are tabulated onto one window, and that's been very helpful for me instead of trying to juggle. So before we go, if you have any questions that you don't want to post publicly, feel free to message me. It's okay. Just DM me, Instagram, Cranky Kangaroo, Facebook, Jamie Horn or Cranky Kangaroo, and YouTube, Cranky Kangaroo. The website has a contact me form. You can email me through there. If you haven't already, go sign up for the sew along at crankykangaroo.com/reaching so that you'll get the emails as they come out, and there might be some extra information in there or a special, hey, look, it's a special session or a special prize, or you never know. So go sign up for that email, even if you're not going to make the quilt. Marie says, husbands are evil like this. That's why we love them some days. So I love him today. I didn't love him yesterday when he was making me learn this, but they're okay. We keep them around for several reasons. So go sign up for the sew along if you haven't already, so that you can get those websites. Huge thank you to Deb for being my moderator and posting links for me, because that was just one more thing that I was not ready to handle necessarily. So Deb Atchison is the fellow member of the education department at Legit Kits with me. Her and I lead the education department at Legit Kits and have a blast. We are planning lots of fun things. We're planning a virtual Hazy Hills class. We are planning the next Certified Instructor Boot Camp coming up in November. So there's lots happening around here, but it's been a lot of fun, and I wouldn't want to do it with anybody but Deb, really. So if you, like I said, if you have any other questions, you can message me any way, anyhow, just send me a message. And if I don't cover in a session, we'll get to it at some point. I will also do a little plug here. I am doing a 10-day Caribbean quilt cruise, and you can sign up for that either through my website, crankykangaroo.com, and then click on the Quilt Cruise tab, or I think there's a link directly to the sign up, which is the Quilting Adventures website. So 10-day Caribbean cruise, I have designed a quilt specifically for the cruise. It's foundation paper piecing, but it's going to be kind of skill based. So you can choose the easy version or the harder version, and everyone will have a great time. And the goal is actually to finish the quilt on the cruise. And the price of the quilt kit that you get on the cruise is included in the cruise cost. So that's all included. It's going to be amazing. We do like Belize and Jamaica, and it leaves from I want to say Fort Lauderdale. I'm pretty sure. Anyways, that's next April. So you have a year to prepare, a year to save, a year to plan. And she does do payment plans. So there's the link right there. Thank you, Deb. And then there was something else I wanted to... if you also... I'm going to give everyone a coupon code for Grace Frame. I am an ambassador and an affiliate for them. So you can actually go get everything from a sewing machine to even just cutting supplies and thread and all kinds of stuff. So if you use coupon code Cranky Kangaroo, it's spelled correctly, Cranky Kangaroo, no spaces, but it's spelled correctly, at graceframe.com, that'll get you 10% off of your purchase. So like I said, it's good on the large things like the frames and the machines, and it's also good on small things. So if you just need a new rotary cutter, use that there, and that'll get you a discount. So again, if you have questions, reach out. Do not be afraid to ask. The next session is April 17th. So I guess that's next week. It probably won't be live unless we just get some feedback that y'all just like the live. But that one probably won't be live. I will be in Cleveland, Ohio next weekend for the Original Sewing and Quilt Expo in Cleveland, Ohio for the show there. I'm teaching 3 classes and doing 2 lectures. So if you're near Cleveland, come see me there. That's a really fun show. It's back in the IX Center. It used to be in Akron for the last couple of years because the IX Center was doing construction. So I'm excited to see the original location of the show because I haven't been there since they've been out, or I never got to go when it was in the April, in the IX Center. I was always in Akron with them. So I'm excited to see the new location, and I think it'll be a great show. So April 17th is the next session. We're going to talk about our patterns. I just bit my tongue. And we'll talk about, do you want to cut out all of your fabric first, or do you want to just wait and do one at a time? So don't fret, don't worry, don't feel like you have to work ahead or you know, do something to get caught up or what have you. We don't start sewing until May 1st. And even if you're not sewing, I think you'll have we'll have some good information for you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dana. Dana is one of our certified instructors as well for Legit Kits. So go to legitkits.com and click on the certified instructor tab, or go to legitinstructor singular.com and you'll see all of our upcoming events there as well. Thank you so much. Thank you, Deb, once again, and I will see y'all next week. Bye. Now I have to figure out how to log off. That's the real trick here because it's all new. But I think this button